My name is David Symons, and I'm a student at Hartland College. I'm from South Africa, from Cape Town, and currently I've almost completed my studies in Pastoral Evangelism to become an evangelist and a missionary. I did not grow up in a home that outwardly espoused Christianity. Both of my parents came from very spiritual and religious backgrounds, but unfortunately both of them had a very bad experience with religion that left both of them with just a kind of a distaste for organized religion, at least, and both of them decided to stop going to church. I believe it was in their mid-20s, around my age. And when they gave birth to my sister, they initially tried taking her to Sunday school and things like that, but it didn't really work out too well, and by the time I was born, they didn't really take me to church at all. I had a little bit of an encounter with Christianity from my grandfather's side, because he was a lay preacher, but other than that, I didn't really have too much of an exposure to Christianity, or any other religion for that matter, until much later in my life. But one thing my parents did do is they truly believed in investing themselves in their family. My parents both sacrificed high positions in society. My dad in terms of sports and in the military, and my mom in terms of business and banking. Both of them could have been a lot wealthier than we are now, but they both decided to give all of that up so that they could spend time with us. My dad, especially at a young age, developed within me a love for nature and a curiosity, but that quickly changed. All of that quickly changed. I went from a boy who loved to be outside playing, and I was very social and very I just loved to interact. And that changed in about 1997 when I started playing PlayStation. I was introduced to PlayStation in about 1998, and I totally changed from that boy, that active boy, to being inside, to becoming addicted to video games. I quickly developed an addiction to food. I became very overweight, and I got bullied quite badly, and eventually some friends that I did interact with, they introduced me, unfortunately, to pornography. And so by the age of about 14, I had several addictions that were just they had me in chains. And my parents didn't actually know all this. They just thought, I was a regular kid. They didn't know that I was going through all of these issues at that time. But my father was well aware of the fact that I was being bullied in school because of my weight. And so he spent a lot of time counseling me, and he showed a lot of support for me in my schoolwork and in sports and things like that. Eventually, it reached the point where my self-esteem was getting so low that he and my sister both encouraged me to take up martial arts. And by the time I was 18, I had lost a lot of weight and gained a whole lot of confidence, and I was ready to start my new life and just to leave all my high school enemies behind. Little did I know what I was about to encounter at my university. I was studying to become a psychologist and a sociologist, and I encountered a Christian, a Seventh-day Adventist at my university, and we quickly became friends. He was also interested in martial arts, and we clicked, and we just got on, as they say in my country, like a house on fire. And when he eventually introduced me to a series of prophecy DVDs by Walter Fyth. He's very famous in South Africa, and he was an atheist and converted. He gave me those DVDs, and I remember I just sat up night after night watching these DVDs, and I just soaked it all up, and it was absolutely fascinating for me to see how this book that before I had thought was just like an old man's book, it's irrelevant, it's just mythology, to see how all the history that I had learned as a child and as a young man, it was linked to this old book called the Bible, and to see how God had been swaying the affairs of the nations from things like the great battles that took place in Europe, and that basically changed this earth's history. All of it was centered around prophecy. Now embraced all of this truth, I could not deny it, that it was fact. It wasn't just someone's opinion, it was historical fact that the Bible is true. And I saw a friend of mine totally transformed. I saw a girl she went from dressing in a very inappropriate way and she just had a mean spirit. But I was like that too. I had a mean spirit, but because of that, we got on kind of well. And then she came back after a summer and she was like, who is this girl? Like totally changed, like in her dress, in her appearance, in the way she responded to me. And I found out that she had accepted Jesus. She had become a Christian. And so I saw for myself a human being, a friend of mine, totally transformed by the power of the gospel. And for me, that was kind of what just swung me towards becoming a Christian. And a little bit of a backtrack, around that time when I was watching these DVDs, I also was investigating other religions. I went to Islam, I went to Judaism because I'm part Jewish. I went to all the different churches that are out there. I went to the Baha'i faith, I went to the Jehovah's Witnesses, all the New Age religions like the Krishna consciousness movement and all these groups. And I remember one evening I was at like a social event for one of these religious groups at my university, and they knew that I was at this questioning phase, and they were trying to out of the sincerity of their hearts, they wanted me to join their faith. And he said, so why are you a Christian? And in my mind, I'm like, well, technically I'm not, because I haven't really accepted this just yet. But for some reason, I found myself actually defending that position. And what was interesting is that the first point that came up in my mind, without even thinking about it, was Jesus. He's the reason. Because I had never seen, through all of my investigation, I'd never seen anyone like Jesus. I'd never seen someone with so much power, with so much authority, who at the same time was so humble and so loving and so sacrificing. It was almost crazy to me. And I remember what sealed the deal, what eventually led me to give my heart to Christ, was when I read that book, The Desire of Ages. Just to see how the author depicted, especially how he looked at people and the tone of his voice, it really made me fall in love, not with the religion, but with the person. If I could, and I must be careful how I say that, but I think you understand what I mean. And but unfortunately, my heart was kind of, because of what I had experienced, I got excited about in my newfound faith, but eventually over time I kind of slid out of the church. And after a series of quite incredible events, the last of which was a car accident in which I nearly died. I either would have had my legs amputated or I would have been killed. And it was literally like a 2-second difference that made that difference. That saved my life. I remember sitting on that bed and just thinking, if I had died, would I have made it to heaven? And the conviction came to my mind, no. Because I had walked away from what I knew. And God then said to me, now is your chance, my son. Now is the chance to give yourself to me wholeheartedly. And at that time, I was considering becoming a professional lecturer and touring the world and lecturing all about sociology and all that kind of stuff. And there was big money in it for me. But I realized that, at least for me, the only way that I could really give myself entirely to Christ was just to become a missionary all out, just to completely give myself to ministry. And I remember this amazing peace coming to my mind. I mean, my head had just smashed through a window, so I had a headache, but it all just kind of faded into insignificance at the thought that I was now securely in the hands of God. And I suppose I could end off on that note. Just not that it's wrong to be wealthy, not that it's wrong to be successful in the professional world, but wherever you are and wherever you go, life is pretty much meaningless without Jesus. It's very uncertain without Him, and that's a very scary thing. But when you have Him in your heart, when you are resting in His hands, you know someone who can tell the future. Someone is taking care of you, and there's nothing that can take Him by surprise. And more than that, He can make you more proficient than anyone. He's like the best trainer that you can find. And so whether you're young or whether you're old and you're listening to this, I really want to encourage you to give Jesus a chance to be your friend. And that's what he wants to be. He doesn't want to be your dictator and to tell you what to do. He really wants to walk with you and to be your friend. And so I invite you to accept Jesus into your heart.